Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today to this podcast audio recording. I do apologize. I am coming to you from my car. So yeah, I'm in my car again. It may not be the best audio, but I hope it's okay. I will try and speak as clearly and precisely as I can. So yeah, let's get on with the video. I am going to be doing my Virgo Cold Hard Truth this week. So those asking, please just hang tough. I have some notes and it's probably going to be a bit of a sledgehammer. But being me, I have my crazy ass. I have a lot of stuff going on in my head all the time, and I have really good ideas, and they come to me. And sometimes they come so quick and hard. It's like, grab a pen. Oh, it's here. Let's go. Or I just start recording and I start talking, and that becomes something. And then I come back and listen to it. And it's very much like, if you're in my head and you spent one day in my brain is exploding with ideas all the time. Sometimes it's very difficult. I have problems sleeping quite a lot of the time. I have a lot of sleeping pills and herbal sleeping teas and things like that. So it's hard to shut this brain down. So that being said, I thought I would talk about Sagittarius. We are revisiting Sagittarius. And after much consideration and thinking, I want to share something with you a little bit more about myself as I'm kind of sharing a lot of the knowledge that I have acquired. I'm trying to share it with you out in the world if you so to choose to or are interested in what I have to offer. Thank you. I am born right on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius. So although I don't give my exact birth chart out anywhere, because if you're like me, if I looked at your chart, I would pretty much know you down to the letter, provided that it is accurate. Someone asked me the other day, what happens when you can't get the accuracy right for your chart, like in terms of hemisphere or in terms of time that you were born. You'd have to go to a psychic or a witch or a shaman. You'd have to go to an occultist, someone that could help fill in and access that information, probably from the spiritual world. If you're an orphan, if you don't know, we try to keep it as close to the dates as possible. Obviously, when we're talking about the sun sign, when someone asks you, what's your sign? We're usually talking about your sun sign, which is the time day that you were born, when the positioning of the sun was. But as we know, astrology is way, way more complex than just your sun. And I've come to the acceptance and conclusion I am more of a Sagittarius. I have 3 placements in Sagittarius in my chart. I won't share exactly what they are, but I also have my moon in Aries and my Venus, how I love and how I interact with the world in terms of integration, is very intense. And you can probably hear that in my videos. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of fire here. And I'm okay with that. So I have a handle on Scorpios, and at one stage I really identified as the Scorpion. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of figured out more about myself, more about my chart, and now really kind of consider myself, the Sag. And that's okay. It is what it is. And Sagittarians, much like Scorpios and the Geminis, we do take a lot of heat in the zodiac. I think all signs have positives and negatives. I mean, positive or negative. On the left-hand path, it kind of depends on your point of view. What is chaos to the spider caught, or the fly caught in the web, is completely another day at the office to the spider. So it's all based on perspective. And that's exactly what you're getting here, from perspective. But yes, I am more of the Sag. So the kind of the chat I wanted to talk about today was getting in the mindset of the Sagittarian, explaining a little bit more about Sag from myself. Obviously, I can't speak on behalf of someone else. I'm speaking from behalf of myself. But it is also, as I'm growing up and as I'm evolving and changing and shifting and merging and divorcing and all of the things that life encompasses, rebirthing, I'm sharing some of this journey with you guys here on my channel. So the question at hand is, I was asked the other day, why does Sagittarius bolt? Why are they kind of considered the bolter, the runner, the ghoster, the one that kind of disappears and you never hear from them again? It's something that is kind of a dual nature to a Sagittarius, and it is quite brutal to be on the other end of it. And I've met people and I know of stories of people that have had that experience with Sagittarians. I did do a dark-sided video series on Sag. They are renowned for having multiple partners, even while they're married, multiple children to multiple people, whether that's male or female. That kind of goes without saying. And this is a sign that is just kind of renowned for just kind of doing our own thing, and if you've spent time with a Sag, or you've had the luck of spending time with a Sagittarian, you would kind of already understand that. And I think part of this idea of a Sag, for me, as I'm getting older, I am definitely subscribing to the narrative that I'm not looking for religion, I'm looking for truth. And in order for truth to prevail, and knowing that truth, or the truth of things, is kind of a little bit more not in the mainstream. It's going to be somewhere off to the left path or the right path. It's somewhere obscure. It's not, let's put it this way. The truth of what's going on in the world isn't going to be on your Channel 9 news tonight. In fact, unless it's approved by the government, daddy grubberment, you're probably not ever going to hear about the many UFO sightings or the occult. You're not going to hear about anything unless it's pre-approved for normal people, or what we would consider normies, which are people that just follow the narrative that they're kind of programmed to follow and never question anything. But we know that there's worlds within worlds, and there's so much going on out there that it would be overwhelming, and it's quite terrifying when you start to really unpack, as I am trying to do every day, and have the courage to do that, and try and trace some of the cords and wires back to the walls of where they came from. And then realizing, oh, whoa, a lot of this was never really plugged in to begin with, and it all makes no sense. And then I become quite enraged. I get quite angry. But that's me. That's another video for another time. As you could imagine, there's a lot going on in my head, and having quite a lot of knowledge, that really is what I'm seeking. I am not looking for material objects. I'm not looking for tools so much anymore. I will use tools if I need to from time to time, but my real interest is the acquisition of wisdom and understanding and expansion. And that's obviously part of the placements of my inner yearning for this kind of expansion. So the reason why I move quickly and I pull away from people quickly is because, just cutting it really simply, I've reached a point where I feel that they can't accommodate my expansion, or they can't see me, they can't understand me, or they more kind of like won't understand me. Rather than have a big fight and try and break them down to rebuild them like good old mate Virgo will, I just kind of I just go bye, and I just kind of pull away, or I limit my time with certain people for multiple reasons. And that's kind of what we should be doing, by the way, in life, regardless of what star sign you are. If the people around you aren't helping you expand, then they are keeping you in stagnation. And stagnation is the thing that kills the life, soul, and blood of a Sagittarius. And so we are very flighty, and we are, as we get older, we do mellow. So if you're out there and you're listening, a lot of this passion that we've got going on in our veins, it is there, as the fire signs do, but it does start to mellow a little bit. And if we can channel that into something productive or beautiful, then that's really the secret to Sagittarius, okay? So much like the safety and acquisition of property and having a fireplace and a tea cozy and a safe environment, that is important to a Sag for a period of time. But we come to understand that the world is our home, not just the property or the house that you live in. So we start to, it's starting to happen now. I'm starting to go into my inner wizard. I'm growing my beard out at the moment. So it's like Merlin vibes going on. And I'm actually liking the color purple a lot actually these days too. I never used to like the color purple. So yeah, I'm not really interested in physical things. What would I buy? What would I buy if I got like $10 million? Yeah, I can buy property, I can buy a house, but what that would do is bring me problems. I would inherit the problems that would be inherited with that money. And so understanding that all of the stuff in your house is going to become landfill. You can't take it with you. And that's a big thing that I've kind of come to understand over the past couple of really rough years, is that we are not here for just plain old materiality. We're not here for that. We're here to transcend that. Am I saying that we don't need it? No, we do need some level of material comfort. We do need a house. We do need a place to stay. But the real frontier is in the mind. It is in the soul. And there isn't really much safety out there other than the safety that we create in our body and in our inner temple. And if you're a little bit on the meta side, I'm talking about your astral temple, the place that you should have already started building inside you long ago if you're on this journey. So the idea for me that I would, be plugged into the system and I'll just work like a slave right up into my late 60s. And then I'll just, with the little money that I've kind of saved, I get to go into a nursing home, and then I get to die alone if I don't have any family. That is so not on the cards for me. Like that is like go kill myself now kind of thing. I could see the systems in place, and given the placements of Sagittarius and Gemini, we can recognize these systems and these traps and pitfalls really quickly. And we do everything we can to ensure that we don't try to enter the system so much, or we also play the system, find loopholes or find ways to advance ourselves in the system to exit the system, if you know what I mean. So being self-employed by whatever means that I could has been a really big part of my life, because I just didn't want to end up in some grey office building with a little pod and a little desk and a station, and kind of have to log into my desk every 10 seconds for a company that really doesn't care about me and at any moment could tap me on the shoulder and say, bye, we don't have a place here for you anymore. That did not appeal to me. I've had so many different jobs over the years, and much like Sagittarians, we try lots of different things. Variety is the spice of life, right? So changing and shifting and rotating, that restless energy, that's really what we do. And so a big part of that is, at some point I will cut my losses, call my debts, pack up the table, hand over any debt that I have to anyone or any outstanding money that I owe anyone. and wish them well and wish them love and know that I will move on to a different state of being. And that keeps me excited. The unpredictability is what I stick around for. The predictability of life and other people is cancer to me. So what I'm saying is, when I meet someone and I know what you're saying, I know what you're thinking, I can predetermine what's going to come out of your mouth, I'm already kind of moving on. The Sagittarius I'm already shooting another arrow, and I'm kind of already chasing after the last one before the next one lands. Always, we've got to have something to look forward to. If you're a Sagittarian and you're out there, you would know that as you get older, your relationship of accumulating stuff will dissolve like sugar in hot water, and then that breaks down, and then you're kind of about moving on, growing, expanding. If there's no opportunity for variation, then it's not really going to work. So any type of mundane, any type of get up, go to work, brush your teeth, get up, go to work, brush your teeth, order, structure, that type of stuff, Sagittarius that's like antimatter. That's like antimatter to us. It's like, no, please, no, God, no. That's not what we want. That's not what we're here for. We want spontaneity. We want diversity. We want culture. We want to taste and smell and bury our face into life. That's kind of the animalistic nature of the Sagittarian. And that's where I'm kind of heading. So it's interesting bringing up this topic, because I would say that if you don't know, I will break down the sign a little bit. Before Sagittarius became known as the Centaur, it was actually a half man, half goat. So it was a satyr. And satyrs are kind of lustful and a little bit naughty, and that's kind of the vibe in Greek mythology. And then that archetype became kind of crossed over, and then it went into Sagittarius as the Centaur. And the Centaur's name was Chiron, and he was a storyteller and a philosophical being that studied astronomy and planets and like rolled bones and ruins. Well, not ruins, but, divination, and was interested in the cosmos and the real meanings behind things, like why are we here? Who created us? Things like that. That interests Sagittarius. That's what we're really looking for. Much, by the way, like Gemini. Gemini and Sag, being opposites on the chart, bleed over a lot into each other. And I have mentioned that before in previous videos as well. It's really quite interesting, and I don't see a lot of astrologers noticing this or talking about it, but it is definitely possible. We also learn a lot from the opposites of us too. Much like myself, a lot of Geminis kind of get me into trouble. And I'm probably sure I get a lot of Geminis into trouble as well. But I learn a lot from them, much like Capricorn learns a lot from Cancer and vice versa. And a Leo would learn a lot from an Aquarius kind of thing. So it's all kind of experiencing opposites and polarities on different levels that make up the human consciousness. And that's kind of what we're here for. We're a mishmash and a hodgepodge of all these different archetypes. And it's really quite fascinating to me as well, and I love it. So yeah, back to Sagittarian. We have the animalistic side, which is the nature of the beast, the bestial side. And yes, it does operate in the lower chakra, in the dick, in the phallus, in the vagina, in the clit. That's where it operates. And sometimes that can get Sagittarian in a lot of trouble. These guys aren't really known for being monogamous. They might have a beautiful wife and a beautiful family, but they want something else. They want 1,000,000, and then they want 1,000,001. Sagittarians don't really have a type. We kind of just like what we like. and it doesn't. You don't really have to have a certain aesthetic. You just have to bring something to the table that excites us, that is different. That variety is the spice of life kind of thing. So yes, and so those primal urges, it's the balancing between the bestial part of me that wants to, when I get down and dirty, I go there, I do it, I don't have a problem with it because I know that it's part of my inner wolf, and I don't oppress it, I don't deny it. And sometimes the need of the animal part of us is that we need to eat and fuck and run and hunt, and I need to get down into that type of mindset because it releases that shadow side of me. And Sagittarians do have a very shadowy side. We are quite impulsive. We are quite aggressive. We can be quite aggressive if we're kind of prodded the wrong way. Much like the horse, if you approach the horse from the wrong angle, the horse is like, ugh, buck, like, get off me, you're coming on too strong. And also we can come on too strong to others as well. So sometimes I have to kind of not limit my passion, but kind of, just like chill a little bit. But yeah, there's two sides to me. Is one side is the all about expansion, Jupiter, all about expansion, the biggest of the planets, which is the ruling planet of my sun sign, of all, these three parts in my chart. And then the other part of me, which is a wild animal that sometimes I'm not really concerned with getting to the bottom of things, and sometimes I just want to eat with my hands. I don't want to be civilized. I don't want to use knives and forks. I just want to be in a state of kind of being wild, being free, and seeing authority as a government or a teacher or a high school or anything that kind of asserts itself around me makes me feel suffocated. And so when people come on me probably too strong, or they are kind of expecting something from me that I never promised, that's really why the Sagittarian kind of pulls away, because we feel imprisoned. That feels restrictive to us. And it's just kind of how we are. We can't, I'm speaking from my own perspective here, but yeah, you've got to kind of give them a level of string or rope so they feel that they can have their own world. If you are in a relationship with a Sag, like myself, I have to be able to be free enough to say, hey, I'm going out tonight, and my partner would be like, okay, have fun. If I had a relationship where I came home and the partner was like, where have you been? What are you doing? You're out fucking around, you're down the pub. No, I'm not. I'm here. Oh, I had to work overtime. No, you're not. You're like, even that, like, even that type of thing is just, even just saying that now is exhausting. I'd be out the door, bye, and never ever come back. You've got to keep it fun and you've got to keep it fresh, which means you have to bring things in, new things all the time. Much like Gemini, it is all in the mind. If you can't bring something new to me, I get complacent. I get restless. It feels dull. I want that excitement, and passion is what excites me. Maybe it just excites the inner beast. I don't know, but I'm giving you a breakdown of why Sagittarians can come across as flippant or absent. It's because they just feel that the conversation that you're having with them isn't deep enough, or it isn't like something that can quench the thirst that they have. And then they just kind of shift into a different position. So, and that's also a play on the idea of the Sagittarius itself, the sign itself, with the arrow. When we shoot the arrow, the arrow itself isn't just to, obviously it's an executioner style thing or a hunter. The centaur is shooting the arrow as a placement for the next location that it wants to go to, the next journey, the next destination. And I will say, I've come to understand about myself, part of my own shadow with being a Sag is that it is the moving away of something that gives me the freedom. It's the leaving of a job. It's the leaving of a relationship. It's the feeling of freedom that I get when I pull away, and it's the potential promise of something that makes me excited, if that makes sense. And that's interesting because, yeah, generally when someone makes a change, like a job change or a relationship change, the problems at the job or the relationship has to get to a point where the risk of the unknown is, like the pain is greater than the risk of the unknown for them to jump off that cliff. And so, but I have no problem doing that. And I've always seemed to kind of land on my feet. The only problem is I'm on so many different journeys at one time that a lot of people can't accommodate an expansion with me. So they kind of see, how do I word it? They kind of get attached to a version of me that isn't me anymore. So they if they're not committed to expanding in themselves, well, then they're not going to be able to. Sagittarius, we wouldn't really see that as a conducive relationship that could last long term for us, because, like I said, you're either going to help me grow or you're going to help me die. There's no between, because everything changes, and that's the only thing that is certain in life, is that everything changes. And words have an expiration date. Everything kind of, I know it sounds hard to hear, but everything kind of has an expiration date. Every relationship does have a point, even in the spiritual world, where it will dissolve and be absorbed by something else, or so I kind of see life a little bit like that. And for a lot of people, that's very scary. So they cling on to the version of you that really doesn't even exist anymore, but that's all they know of you. And so that becomes a problem. And I hope that this is, I think I'm explaining this quite strongly, but I hope that made sense. And that's why Sagittarians pull away. That's why we bolt. The horse runs, or we don't mean to do it in a nasty way. It's just kind of like a self-preservation coping mechanism or safety mechanism, because we'd rather just pull away than have the confrontation of telling someone you need to grow, you're stuck in the old ways, you're too slow, I need you to move, I need you to see me as I am, and then the other person can't do that. So it's kind of like I really can see how that would be taken as mean, but I don't feel that it is a mean thing. It's not an intentional thing to hurt you. It's just that we recognize when a time period in our life or a relationship in our life has come to its natural conclusion. And when something does begin to close, something else begins to shift into the next phase, or the next doorway starts to present itself. But being a triple Sag here, I see doorways where others see walls. And that's why I've always been like, I've always said that, nature will provide, and the things that we need around us are actually all there. We actually have everything that we need, but it's not physical stuff that we really, really need. It's not the materiality that feeds our soul. The other day I was actually looking up some charts, and I will share. I have to be very careful, because I know a lot of things that I would never ever say like publicly, because it could freak people out. And that's fair enough, because I don't know like who listens to these podcasts or my videos, and I'm very aware of that this is a public platform. But I was looking at Marina Abramovich's chart the other day, and was quite shocked to find that her chart was pretty much identical to my own. And it was really interesting, because when I hear her talk in interviews, by the way, Marina Abramovich is a very famous, very, very hardcore performative artist. She has a lot of very interesting points of view on life, on philosophical things, on energy, on humanism, lots of different hardcore stuff. Yes, it is a lot more on the darker side, But that's where I find more of the truth, and a lot of the things in her chart are actually very similar to mine. So it's interesting that there's a saying that goes, same, S-A-M-E, can recognize same. So when I see an aspect of myself out in the world in another person, when they talk or when they create or when they move, even in the way that they move, their energy, it feels like instantly, it feels like home to me, because I'm connecting with something that is actually a closer vibrational match to me than other things. I hope that made sense, because quintessentially humans are all aspects of each other mirroring back to each other. We're all one. I know that sounds hard to hear, but we actually are all one. So when I hear her talk, it's really fascinating to me because she's doing the thing that keeps me around. And if you can do this one thing for a Sagittarius to keep them around in a relationship, and this is not me being egotistical, I'm not being pompous or anything like that. I'm trying to keep this really humble. You need to be able to show me something or tell me something that I don't already know. That's what keeps the Sagittarius interested. And that is why I make art. Because when I look at art, obviously art is a merging of spirituality, ideas, energy, shapes, colors, moods, story. It is the frontier of the human soul's expression. But it's also the story. It's telling me something. You've got to be able to tell me something that I don't already know. So to just be aesthetically pretty, you'll just be dismissed as any other pretty flower. You've got to have a level of depth to you that will keep me around you. And that's not going to be related to what you look like. You could look like any nationality, any person, any body shape. You could be in a wheelchair. I wouldn't give a shit. I would actually say the other day, I'd probably find it more interesting spending time in a nursing home with elderly people, listening to them talk, or spending time in some kind of palliative care, or even type of people that are on the spectrum, that are intellectually disabled on any level that might be. I would learn more from them than I would from just a regular, mundane person. So I'm always interested in really different perspectives, because it pushes my comfort zone into the unknown, and that creates a level of A, excitement, but B, brings me to a place of internal circumstances that I haven't seen before in myself. I hope that made sense, but yeah, I'm off flying in the sky right now a little bit, but if you can follow my podcast, I think you'll understand where I'm going for this. So I'm looking for cracks of magic, and I understand that the spiritual world, it's there, okay? These things out there, they're there. Just because they're not documented by the government approval, they are there, and they have always been there. Much like what I say to people that are religious, that come at me, and they're coming in really hard at me a lot of the time, I just say, explain the dinosaurs, and they go quiet. What? I'm saying this nicely, but also humans have been documented on this planet for over 200,000 years. Religions, no matter what kind of category that is in, has only been here for less than 2,000 years. Okay, so I just put that on the table gently, and I just leave it there, and everyone backs off me really quickly, because if we're going to go there, then we're really going to go there, and I'm basically deconstructing what you've programming, which is kind of what Sagittarians do. We either become the priest or the preacher, or we become the person that is going to destroy the old world to help usher in the new world, particularly in the age of Aquarius, which is what we're in right now. Now, we did go through the age of Aries, which was back in the Roman Empire with all the wars and blood and guts and that. And then we went into the age of Pisces, which was Jesus, and everything shifted again. It comes around in cycles, and it's called an epoch, that it happens every 2,000 years or so. But we are in the age of Aquarius, and there is a shadow side to the age of Aquarius, which I will be talking about in a further podcast at some stage. And that's woke culture. It's when the Aquarian goes too far into the extreme, and now we're going to start seeing no consensus on reality. And the rules that were formed in the age of Aries will begin to break. And that's why religion kind of came in through the age of Aries into Pisces, because it was trying to create a level of humanitarianism where humans weren't just raping and pillaging and killing each other. Because when you look at the history of the human soul, you will see that a lot of it is the cycle of violence, the cycle of retribution. That's a big part of what humans do, much the same as colonialism. No different. It's what we do. One group of people take over another group of people, stamp out their life, their world, and then they build their world on top of that world. It's just going on, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. By the way, I'm sorry, it's not. It's what humans do. It's in our nature. So, moving forward onto this video, I think I've kind of explained quite a lot about the Sagittarian in a very short space of time. I know I do like to talk quite quickly, but yes. If I could think of one word to describe Sagittarius, I would think about the word truth. What is the truth to you? And who sets limitations? Who told you, what is limitations? These are things that are kind of made up. And Sagittarian is naturally rebellious against that. So it goes without saying. So any type of wall or barrier, whether that's sexually, physically, emotionally, Sagittarians are going to push the edge just to feel it crack. So whatever it is that they're in, sometimes even gravity feels annoying to Sagittarius. Being in a car, they'd like the idea of travel and moving, and getting to a destination. By the way, it's never ever the destination. It's only the movement that excites them. Once they get there, they've got somewhere else to go. Then they've got somewhere else to go after that, and somewhere else to go after that. But yeah, it's about not feeling confined. So give them freedom to feel non-confined, and don't try and knock the wind out of our sails. When we're flying high, just let us fly. I know a lot of people try to, and a lot of the dark side of Virgo, I've been thinking about, likes to knock the wind out of Gemini's and Sagittarius sails a little bit. They will kind of snuff out the flame, and that flame can create a whole fire. So you've got to allow, for art or expansion to happen, it's got to have a safe place for it to come in. Okay, so that being said, there's always another conquest, and there's always another challenge, there's always another hill to chase. But I feel like you're getting the general overview of this sign. And yeah, we're bold, we hate routine. Anything bland or grey, it's just not going to happen. Any type of modern day affairs, forget it. We need constant stimulation, and Sagittarius is the globetrotter. We're out there moving, shaking. It's kind of like Houdini would be. Houdini would be a Sagittarius, like escape artists. Whatever wall it is, we want to get out of it. We want to break free of it. Any type of restriction, it's just not fun. So we rebel. But I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and it's interesting. I hope that I've given you a little bit more of an insight into myself and Sagittarius and the moving parts of me. Have imagination. All things come from thoughts. Thoughts come from imagination and thinking and feeling, and this is why it's so important. And yeah, I know it is what it is. If you've had some bad experiences with Sagittarians, I don't see them usually as malice. It's just the way that they kind of are. And I've learned to accept that if I want to be accepted, then I need to accept others for how they are as well. And that's kind of okay too. So Chiron, the teacher, teaches us that. And even if most Sagittarians are in some form of teaching, whether it's education, or because they know that expansion of the mind is where everything grows. It's where we can expand. All things build upon things. So yes, barriers are to be destroyed, and the pen will be broken. And then it's like, don't put them in a pond. They need to be in the sea. We need to swim around and be free. And that's, you get us as friends a lot of the time. You know, you get us as very good friends, but you don't get us as lovers a lot of the time, like deep lovers. We are naughty. You know, we talked about the Seder. Yeah. I won't go into that too much, but yes, I hope that this helps and you found this video quite positive. This was my thoughts on Sagittarius revisited, why we bolt, why we are the way we are, a free spirit and a restless heart, the restless horse that will buck you. All right, be well on your journey and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye. Bye.